Hey everyone, I am coming to you live today from Houston, Texas. I'm out here for a few weeks. Got a couple events and people to connect with, so happy to be here. My second time in Houston, but my first time kind of really exploring it. So yeah, I was sitting with what wants to come through today and what to touch on. There's so many directions I could take this in relationship to what's happening on the planet right now. And the truth is, I've actually been touching on what's happening on the planet right now for the past few months. If you just go back into my archives, one in particular is named How Do You Navigate the Suffering of This World? Really great time to watch that, because I know it can be difficult to know what's the right way to handle major crises like we're facing on the planet right now. And, I know me, myself, have gotten a lot of pressure from both sides to speak one way or the other, to take a side. And the truth is, my side is always going to be the highest vibrational timeline. It has been my work as a healer to really master the art of not matching the suffering, because if I match the suffering, I'm feeding it. And, I think the past 2 or 3 years in humanity, we really have learned the power of collective consciousness. And when we're all focusing on one thing, we're feeding that thing. That's like the quantum physics 101. What you focus on, you feed. And so we know that. So boom, if that's the case, then let us be more aware of what we focus on. Because if we genuinely want to call forward the solution, why is everyone completely focused on the problem? So much so they're mad at you for not being focused on the problem. We know that there's a problem. There's a major crisis happening. It's no surprise to anyone. The truth is, there's a lot of question around what's really going on. The truth is, we live in a matrix reality where we're left with a lot of questions of like, what's the truth of what's happening here? Even if you've been on social media at all, you see there's a lot of even propaganda and photos that are altered to make things look worse than they are. And I'm not saying that they're not bad. What I'm saying is we don't have the full truth. So how do you pick a side without knowing the full context of what's actually going on? It's I feel like we're jumping the gun a little bit here. And the truth for me is that I don't need to pick a side. I'm for humanity. I'm for the highest vibrational timeline of humanity. And from every angle that I can see, our world leaders are not. I think one of the things that when you're really on your self-mastery path, what you find is the difficulty in dealing with people, because a lot of people aren't. And so what you're up against is their unfinished business internally. You're kind of constantly at odds with the work that people are avoiding. And you find this in relationships. This is why it can be even more difficult to find like a serious relationship when you really have worked on yourself, because if they aren't matching your work, then you end up sort of at war with their inner programming that ends up getting projected onto you, because you're the closest one to them in the cleanest mirror. And this, I feel like, is happening in the collective right now. Those of us who have really done the work, which, let's be real, our world leaders have not. Find me a world leader that's talking about self-mastery, that says the solution is each person healing themselves. Like, be real. They're not talking about that. They're not encouraging the evolution of humanity. They're not encouraging the ascension of humanity. They're not thinking spiritually. They're thinking purely 3D and in the way that's going to feed their matrix agenda. And we're out of that. When you do the work on yourself, that is like the freedom from the matrix programming. You free yourself from the ways that you are not yourself. You free yourself from the ways that you have been programmed into fitting into that world that you don't fit into. And so the key, and what we're doing here, is we're like building solutions outside of that world. And many of us have been doing that our whole lives, and we haven't had context for that. We've just been sort of guided into like, what is the next best thing to do? And a lot of it is your own work. You can't choose the solution if you're not existing as it. What's the kind of age-old saying? If you want to change the world, start with yourself. And it is that. It is absolutely that. And it is that more now than ever. And that's, again, what it is that those of us who, I believe there's many of us, they call it the 144K, like the people who are like on the ground doing the spiritual work and raising the average of the collective. I think it's more than that. I like to believe it's more than that. But all in all, we are existing as the vibratory solution. We exist in the vibrational solution. When you raise your vibration, when you transform yourself into a high vibrational person, you offer that as the solution in everything that you do. Many of you have heard me talk about this over and over again. This is why I'm saying go back into my video collective and see the solution is doing the work. And I say that all the time. And that's what, in times like this, I know for me, when chaos happens, I sit in that. I know that I wake up every day and I'm like full solution mode. I've been that way for years. And that's why like I see what's happening and I know it's devastating. And also I choose not to match the suffering. Because if you've ever done any healing work, you know that is sort of like the core teaching of being a healer is that you're not here to carry people's pain. In fact, you deprive them of the lesson when you carry their pain. You can acknowledge it, you can hold space for it, you can send it love, right? Transmute it, help transmute. But to put it on your shoulders and carry it and feel it is sort of like the underdeveloped empath, right? The one who's like so highly sensitive and they're out in this world carrying everybody's pain. They get home and they're just crying the tears of the world. And you got to get over that. If you're a highly sensitive person, you have to fine tune your gift, because it is a gift to be a highly sensitive person, to not carry the suffering, but rather to transmute it, which is why for me, I've really shifted from, I don't call myself an empath at all. I like the term highly sensitive because it does depict that we are available to the energetics, but I prefer the term alchemist, because to me, the alchemist is the one who's just in full transmuting mode pretty much all the time, within and beyond. And so we do that for the collective, right? And so we'll sit and just sit with the suffering of the world, and then you just send energy to it, you feed it, right? There's been a number of studies done now that, so at least we can prove that there's some benefit to a collective of people who have one intention of dissolving the suffering and to creating a higher vibrational timeline. They've done this in cities like DC, where they had, say, 50 meditators, and they were all meditating on lessening the crime in the area. Guess what happened? The crime in the area lessened. Like it's actually simple math, quantum math, but it's simple math that we have an effect. I mean, on a very basic level, you know that if you look at something, you adjust it, you fix it, you have an effect on it. That awareness has an effect. Okay, if that's the case, then what kind of effect can the collective awareness have? And if we know that, then should we maybe be a little bit more aware of where we're placing our awareness, where we're spending that energy, how we are being aware of things. If we're feeling like we have to match energy all the time, or come down, or, lessen our high vibration to meet the suffering, is that not just feeding the suffering? And who's talking about this, right? Again, the world leaders are not saying, you guys, let's all like vibrate higher, let's find ways, let's meet at peace. Where are those conversations? Like, it's very obvious that our world leaders are not emotionally regulated, and so their first move is war. And that's, what's in it for us? Are they thinking about the people? It's like, no, there's just the ego's agenda behind so much that happens on this planet, which is why it's hard to like really get involved. Like I'm not really trying to get too involved in their affairs until they're willing to be their highest vibrational person. They're not even working with divine law, they're like, they're just fully in their matrix cloaks. And I'm fully in my divine timeline cloak. And again, those of us who are, many people don't know what that means. I mean, some people would watch this and think that I'm crazy, and I don't care. It doesn't affect me or bother me at all, because I don't question it. It's the realest thing I know, to know that I'm so grounded in the guidance that I move just perfectly and according to what I know I need to do. And I know my role, and I know the power of my awareness. And I know that if I'm feeding something with my awareness, I'm bringing it to life. And I'm not going to do that with the problems of this world. I stay in the solution arena. And again, that's not right or wrong. Some people need to raise awareness of the problem. Some people do work in the problem. For me personally, I'm a solutions-based person. I stay in the solution. I do this in my own life. All my girlfriends know, I very rarely come to like my friends with problems. I might come to need to process something, and by the end of the conversation, we're already moved into the solution, usually with my lead, because I do that for myself. And so that's my role. I know that that's my role. I am in that space naturally. And so we all need to find our role here, right? We've been preparing ourselves our whole lives, and much well before that, priming our gifts. Even this year in particular, 2023 has been somewhat of a difficult year for many of us. always priming us. It is always preparing us for what we're here to do, to take on a new paradigm and to exist as the leaders of that new paradigm. Because while we've been in this kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I absolutely know what I'm doing space for most of our lives, a lot of people are now going to just be shifting into that I don't really know what I'm doing space. And so there's a tether to God. There's a tether to the highest vibrational forces of the universe that many of us have already reclaimed by doing the work on ourselves. And so I feel like the rest of the collective is going to like slowly be moving into that space. So we will be the leaders to say, welcome, first of all, welcome to the new paradigm. Second of all, it starts within. Heaven on earth starts within. A new timeline, a new way of existing starts within. It's the matrix dissolving itself as it is, and the new paradigm being born through each one of us in our own specific roles, and only we know what that means. You know, if you've really been on your mission, if you've really been on your like highest timeline, you know that it's like so specific to you that it's really even hard to like really talk about it with other people. Like some people who are on their own at least will understand that yes, you're on your own and you have a very specific mission and job to do. But if somebody's not on that, then they don't even have context for it at all. If somebody's not tapped in, they're not going to have context for it at all, because it's like, you know, a 5-year plan, like, baby, we're just trying to get through to tomorrow and figure out what needs to happen today. So we've reduced like the timeline down to like each moment. Okay, what is the highest vibrational decision? What is the highest vibrational timeline choice birthed from each moment? And you're going to know the answer to that, because the answer like blooms from your heart. It blooms from the space that you created within yourself by collapsing all of the non-truths. So there's a lot of like individual becoming in all of this, a lot of individual solution that's going to be born through you and your gifts and your work and your ability to lead that you have been cultivating for time. And then it's all of us, right? It is the collective focus on saying we're done with the BS. We're done listening to people who haven't spent a second with themselves, like these world leaders who are absolutely creating hell on earth for their own agenda because they refuse to face themselves. So now their inner war has become our world war, and I'm not having it. And personally, I'm not dealing with that, and neither should you. Neither should you. The world war is a reflection of our world leaders. That's what it comes down to. If we had world leaders who led with peace, who had made space within themselves for truth to exist, we would not be where we are. And yet, you know, the timeline of humanity has led us up to this pinnacle of the human experience, where the people who are ruling are the furthest from God. They're the furthest from truth because they're the furthest from themselves. And those of us who are like in our ultimate power, they don't even know we exist yet. And that's a beautiful thing, because we see what they do when they know that people exist in their power. They have many ways to destroy that. So we've been working kind of on the outskirts and on the edges until one day we just collectively bloom and rise into the solution. And we're so powerful. We have such spiritual fortitude that they can't touch it. And I don't think there's any other option. And it's like we're already in that direction. And the true power is those of us who have it, who have claimed it within, who have claimed ourselves, who know that vibration is power, awareness is power, self-mastery is power, sitting with yourself in silence is power. That we've won the war. You know, we have won the war, and we're building the timeline where that's the case. We don't need to go to war. There's no war to be had because we already won it. So move how you feel guided to move, but don't let anyone pressure you one way or the other, even me. You know, if you feel like your role in this is to address things head on, by all means, do that. Listen to what you know. And let me only just tell you to listen to what you know. You know far better than anyone else, and especially me, about what you're here to do and what your gifts are and what feels like truth, what feels like your truth. And we want to be aware of what my truth means, right? Because is there 8 billion truths, and does that mean there is no truth at all? I don't think so. I think that there's a sort of fundamental divine law, and we're always trying to get closer and closer to fundamental divine law and master the divine laws in our own lives and our own realities. So the work then is to figure out what that means for you, to find that space where this is, it just feels like it's just pure, authentic, powerful, self-revelation and then live from that space. You know, your high vibration calls everybody up. Your awakening awakens others. Your truth activates the sameness in other people. And so, you know, whether you do that on social media, whether you do that just wherever you are, do it, but listen to what you know. You know, life, I feel like the other piece of it, on the other hand, on the other side of wartime, is holy time. God is loud right now. The signs, the symbolisms, I feel like we are moving at quantum speeds because God's like, all right, cool, I got something for that. And it's us. It's us, literally. And it feels crazy at times. And I feel like that's how you know, because of course you're going to even question all of it and yourself. Is this really real? And then there's this deep, humbling, absolutely yes. And then you just keep going on your path. But don't feel like you need to pick up the suffering of the world. You know, don't feel like you need to do any one thing. Just do what you know what to do now more than ever, right? Maintain your vibration though. I will say that, because we've cultivated this high vibration in our collective that is untouchable. And so we want to keep that, right? And use that as our superpower right now to clear the non-truths, clear any wickedness, clear any agenda, and create the new. And we stay there as much as we can while like bringing everybody into this new space where none of that will exist. I really believe in our lifetime, there's a possibility that a lot could collapse. We already see the American empire is collapsing. And so who's going to come next? Who's the next world superpower? Maybe it's us. I'm going to leave it there. Love you guys. See you next time.